Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Mr. Mayor, former mayors, Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff of Wiltshire, MPs, town councillors, everyone. Welcome, including people who have strong ties with our town, but live far away from Swindon. Even, dare I say it, people living in Europe. Now, a number of people who are going to be with us today, and usually are every year, sadly, and somewhat ironically, are not. Members of Swindon's Jewish community have sent their apologies. They were due to attend, as they do every year, but then at the weekend, one of their long-standing members died. Her funeral is happening today, now. We miss them, we think of them, and we send condolences. And by the way, we are recording this ceremony for them and anyone else who is unable to join us now. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this online ceremony. Would that we could handshake and hug, but we cannot, so we do it this way. To mark Holocaust Memorial Day in Swindon today, 27th of January, 2021, in the time of COVID-19. Thank you for making time to come together like this. For 20 years in Swindon, we have marked this day, but always outside, al fresco, in the wind and the weather, whatever the weather, feeling that getting a little cold or wet was a minor inconvenience compared to what those we were remembering had suffered. We usually meet by the cenotaph, our town's place of remembrance, where school children join us too. And we follow that by heading into the warm and welcoming setting of the Friends Meeting House. But this year, COVID-19 restrictions have made all of that impossible, of course. However, 21st century technology has enabled us to meet this way. And today we did at least start the ceremony, as we have for the past 20 years, with the chimes of our town hall clock striking 12 midday, a wonderful and reassuring sound. And today that was followed by cellist Debbie Jennings playing us in with a piece called Eli Eli. Thank you, Debbie. Now we chose that music because it is based on a song written by a brave young woman called Hannah Selesh. At the age of 23 in 1944, Hannah was parachuted by the British Army into Yugoslavia. There, she was captured and questioned by the Nazis, but even under torture, refused to tell them where others like her were hiding. So she was taken out, put in front of a firing squad, and shot. Her song is full of both sadness and hope. It says things like this: may life never cease. May the light in the sky never cease. May the hopes and the dreams and the longings of all mankind never cease. Now, this ceremony will not take long, probably 30 minutes or so. During the next 10 minutes, there will be some words about why we mark this day. And then our mayor and a few others will speak for themselves and/or on behalf of the people of Swindon and Wiltshire and faith groups and other groups and individuals. We've come together today to commemorate, remember, with respect, love, and as much understanding as we can, the many children, women, and men of all races and all nations who have suffered and perished in genocides, not only in the large-scale persecution and killings of the European Holocaust in the early 1940s, but also in previous and subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Armenia, Bosnia, and most recently in Myanmar in Southeast Asia, and Darfur in Western Sudan, which are considered to be the first genocides of the 21st century. And also, most recently, in the so-called re-education camps in Xinjiang in Western China. The list, alas, of recorded genocides the world over, past and present, is long, very long. We are here, online, but together, not only to remember the past, but also to acknowledge the challenges we face today and reflect on the grim milestone of deaths reached today in the current pandemic, and to make a stand in the present and a stand for our future here in Swindon. It is a small but nevertheless significant thing that we do here today, to take time out in our busy lives, to spend a little time together in the middle of the day on an ordinary Wednesday in January, to remember others who have suffered and are gone. But it should be an honour for us to do this, especially if in our everyday lives we are lucky enough to enjoy relatively good health, wealth and freedom. It should be an honour to remember those who have endured hardship and lost their lives, and those who still suffer prejudice and persecution. We think of them now. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day this year is Be a Light in the Darkness. Now, Be a Light in the Darkness is a call to action. It asks everyone to consider different kinds of darkness. For example, identity-based persecution, misinformation, denial of justice, and different ways of being a light. For example, speaking out against persecution, even though speaking out is not an easy thing to do. It's always the trickiest thing to do. Refusing to accept misinformation and lies, standing up for fairness, justice, and equality. The unprecedented and challenging times through which we are currently living provide an opportunity to show the very best of which humanity is capable, but alas, also the darker side of our world. For example, in some of the abuse and persecution being spread on social media. Now, more than ever, there is a need to be a light in the darkness in order to stop divisions and the spread of misinformation, misunderstandings, and political hostility. We can shine a light and stand against talk of us and them. We can resist propaganda that divides us. We can help people who suffer persecution, and we can shine a light to challenge hostility or persecution that we may witness in our workplace or our neighborhoods. And we can remember people who are persecuted and killed, as we are today. And we can work together to help those who are still in need. And people in need are often those who have had to leave their homes, flee persecution, and look for a new home, somewhere new to settle. Here are some words that describe the situation a family might have faced during the European Holocaust, torn from their home and setting off, or much more likely being sent off, on a journey to a destination unknown. And it mentions bells. Bells ring out for timekeeping, as our town hall ones did today, and also at weddings and similar joyful occasions. But bells also ring out in times of sadness. And that is what they do in these lines by Sue Boyle. The burden of bells, the sound of bells, and the trains, the trains, the trains curving their way across Europe. 1. I will take my tools, the father said, hammer, chisels, auger, whetstone, and saw. There is strength in my arm. My eye is clear and true. We shall need houses at this journey's end, because life lies ahead, and a builder is what I am, the father said. 2. There would be space for everything we need, the mother said. Pianos, poems, songs, a violin, to stir the hearts of friends in shuttered rooms. There is always music at a journey's end, because life lies ahead, and a homemaker is what I am, the mother said. 3. They will let me bring what makes me beautiful, the daughter said. Bracelets, ribbons, brushes for my hair. A love is waiting for me there to take my hand. I shall be married at this journey's end, because life lies ahead, and my beauty is what I am, the daughter said. 4. These are the gifts of my shining life, the baby said. The new moon's arc, the star, the evening sky. I am abundant with unfolding love. Strong hands will hold me at this journey's end, because life lies ahead and delight is what I am, the baby said. 5. Hamburg, Vienna, Salonika, Turin, Leipzig, Bergen, Amsterdam, Berlin, Padua, Paris, Avignon, Lublin, Zagreb, the trains, the trains, the trains, the empty trains returning, and the bells, the burden of bells. Now, remembrance, memory, and ceremonies like this cannot change past misdeeds. Absolutely not. What's done, however dreadful, is done. Fortunately, many people who fled persecution in their countries of birth have rebuilt their lives and supported wonderful new communities all over Europe, Britain, and also here in Swindon, which is a recognized city of sanctuary and home to the Harbour Project supporting refugees. It is the courage and determination of those who survived and rebuilt their lives that we can draw on to help us be a light in the darkness, to step forward, to help others, to use words and actions of compassion, kindness, friendship, and understanding to make a difference, to make things better for everyone. And our chief responsibilities are here in our hometown, Swindon. We should look to those on our own doorstep and care for them. We should love the ones we are with. Now, in a moment, a few others will speak with personal testimonies and messages. But first, to mark this day in our town, our Mayor, Councillor Gary Perkins, will say a few words of his own and in his role as Mayor on behalf of the people of Swindon. Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm not at home with IT, so please bear with me. I got my video on. Yes, I am here now. Well, earlier on this morning, I was fortunate to be able to lay a wreath at the cenotaph. It was a rather different morning than normal. As Matt has already said, I was alone there, but at the same time, I felt it was necessary to actually put that sign down to remind the people of Swindon, and in the name of the people of Swindon, that we'll never forget. The Holocaust, as Matt has said, comes in many under many themes. We always think about the horrors in Europe in the 1930s and 1940s, but as we're all aware that these atrocities continue, whether it's under ethnic cleansing, religious persecutions, or even the targeting of civilians during military conflicts. To shine a light is very apt, and we need to shine a light on the dark shadows of history where these atrocities are acted out. On behalf of the residents of Swindon, we have always been very welcoming to those many people who have fled the atrocities from many parts of the world and have rebuilt their lives to the advantage of Swindon here, to save with the help of the harbour projects and many other people, city of sanctuaries, has made Swindon a centre of welcoming for these people. Right, they are our people. They are part of Swindon. They're residents of Swindon now, and we should always maintain that welcome. So, in our memories today, we think about the history, we think about the present, and also, one would hope not the future, but one can only pray for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Perkins. Thank you very much. And now a personal story from Elspeth Wallen.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, friends. Be a light in the darkness. I am a Quaker, and I'd like to begin my reflections today with a quotation from George Fox, the founder of Quakerism, written in his journal in the mid-17th century, a time of great turbulence in England. Describing his personal suffering, George cries out, asking why he should have to undergo such troubles and trials. And then he writes, "And the Lord answered that it was needful I should have a sense of all conditions. How else should I speak to all conditions? And in this I saw the infinite love of God. I saw also that there was an ocean of darkness and death, but an infinite ocean of life and love, which flowed over the ocean of darkness. In the depths of humanity's darkest times, a light shines. It shines in the actions of individuals, groups, and communities who confront evil and refuse to say they can do nothing. And it shines in people who have overcome trauma and challenge to lead inspirational lives. I'm going to share with you the story of one such individual, a dear adopted relative of mine, Francis Deutsch, who was born into a Jewish family in Vienna, 6th of April 1926, died in London, 16th December 2020. In 1939, as a young boy of 13 speaking no English, Francis was one of the last of a group of children waiting on the platform of Liverpool Street Station, London, for someone to pick him up. He had come to this country on the Kindertransport, in which Quakers played a pivotal role, rescuing almost 10,000 children from German-controlled Europe. I'm sure many of you have seen that beautiful outdoor bronze memorial sculpture of the Kindertransport on the forecourt of Liverpool Street Station. Finally, Francis was collected and went to live with a Methodist minister and his wife, my uncle and aunt, so becoming a much-loved member of my own extended family. It wasn't until much later that Francis learnt that his mother, he'd lost his father when he was small, 2 aunts and other family members had died in the camps. And much later still, in his own time, that he was able to talk about and come to terms with his history and survivor's guilt. In adult life, Francis did not practice the Jewish faith, although he remained very interested in Jewish culture and music. He met and married Sheila, his wife for 65 years, living originally in Hull and then in London, where they brought up their 2 daughters. Highly intelligent, with great imagination and drive, Francis had qualified as a solicitor. He worked firstly at Paddington Law Centre and then at the Commission for Racial Equality, devoting his talents to representing those in society who are marginalised and discriminated against, and those like himself who had sought asylum from persecution. Among the tributes that were read out at his Thanksgiving service on 15th of January was one from Paul Boateng, British Labour MP for Brent South, 1987 to 2005, and the UK's first Black Cabinet Minister. Paul had written of Francis. He overcame huge early challenges to become an outstanding radical lawyer of his generation. Francis's interest in politics and international affairs and his dedication to human rights, equality and democracy never left him. Neither did his distinctive Viennese accent. After retirement, he and Sheila moved to Saffron Walden, where they lived for 15 years. Francis continued to be a campaigner for racial justice and an active supporter of the United Nations organization. He also gave time and energy to local causes such as the independent community cinema. He loved music, traveling, often off the beaten track, dogs and football. When Sheila developed Alzheimer's and both she and Francis needed more support, they moved back to London to be near their elder daughter. Despite his strength of character, exceptional abilities, and his indomitable spirit, Francis was modest and unassuming, kind, thoughtful, and independent until near the end of his life. In December, he entered hospital following a slight seizure. He was discharged home, unaware he had contracted COVID-19. He became ill and was readmitted to hospital where he died. To use Matt Holland's words, there is something both sad and ironic about escaping the Nazis and being taken by COVID-19. But Francis leaves a legacy of love, respect, and admiration. His spirit and his gifts will live on. I'd like to end with a verse by another Francis, the poet Frances Harper, a woman born 1825, which was printed on the order of service for January 15th. It's entitled, "Bury Me in a Free Land." Make me a grave where'er you will, in a lowly plain or lofty hill. Make it among earth's humblest graves, but not in a land where men are slaves. Thank you, friends.
Elspeth. Elspeth, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elspeth. Next, we have some words from the High Sheriff of Wiltshire, Ashley Trulock. Ashley.
It's just unmuting. Thank you, Matt. I've been asked to say a few words as High Sheriff, and I guess as a Army General who's seen more than his share of suffering around the world, but mainly because I was very attracted by the very positive theme of today's event, be a light into darkness. I really do hesitate to speak directly of the Holocaust. I have no direct Jewish connections or relatives, but Matt suggested I share with you two memories I shared with him just a few days ago. So here goes. The first was as a schoolboy in British Forces Education Service School in Germany, attending a day trip to a former World War II concentration camp. I had no idea what to expect, but the memory of that day and the reality as a 12-year-old with a class of 12-year-olds of what we learned happened there left an indelible memory, which I repaid in adult life by taking soldiers of my regiment when I subsequently served in the army to visit and learn. The effect was identical in every time. Excitement and chatter on the bus on the way there, and a sledgehammer shock and silent reflection on the way back. Now in semi-retirement, I run a historical tour company. And when my marketing manager suggested we run Holocaust tours to Germany and Poland, I was appalled at first. I felt very uncomfortable at the prospect. But to cut the long story short, we did it. And these tours are amongst our best attended, and far from being macabre events, as I feared they might be, they have become a pilgrimage for Jewish relatives and an education for their Gentile fellow travelers, and a real bonding experience for everybody. So I guess my humble and very simple message is that in a busy world, we all, especially the non-Jewish community, need reminding of the Holocaust, preferably by hearing the stories or visiting the sites. But even more importantly, we need silently to reflect on the lessons learned and what we can do to make the world a better place as a result. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley, High Sheriff of Wiltshire. Thank you very much. It's been good to meet you. Next, I must declare a bit of a personal interest. Here is a woman who is both my sister and a former brilliant midwife, Ruthie. Unmute yourself first. That's it.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. And hello, everyone. Our mother was born in Vienna. In order to escape Nazi persecution, she left Austria in 1938 and came to England. Separated from her family and as a refugee living with uncertainty about the length of her stay, she took up a post as a student nurse at a hospital in Ealing. Through her work, she met our father. Mum and Dad had 6 children. The 4th child, Luke, became, among other things, a brilliant documentary filmmaker. Luke died in the summer of 2020. For the previous 6 years, he had courageously and ever optimistically been trying to stave off the life-threatening effects of a cancer of the blood and bone marrow. But also during those years, Luke had been traveling all over Europe looking for aging ex-members of Hitler's Nazi party. He found a good few of them, the last living generation of participants in the Third Reich, who, often over cups of tea and in comfortable surroundings, answered his probing questions about what part they may have played and what they knew about the extermination camps. Their answers were many and various, but always illuminating. Some said they were just being good citizens, following orders and doing what all obedient Germans were doing at the time. One woman, when asked about the killings, matter-of-factly replied, "Well, of course I knew. I could see them from my office window, but I was only doing the accounts." A few, thankfully, were ashamed and contrite. Most of all, what Luke's film shows is the other side of the horror of the Holocaust, how its participants and perpetrators saw it. Their calm and reasoned testimonies are a stark warning of how ordinary people who see themselves as good citizens going about their daily lives can so easily get bound up and be swept along by a terrifying and murderous movement. If we need lessons, there are lessons here. Luke completed work on the film while he was very ill and finished it in time for its release in the UK, hopefully sometime this year. It's called Final Account, and a first chance to see it may well be in May at the Swindon Festival of Literature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. That's fantastic. Thank you. Next, someone who stood out in the cold many times for Holocaust Memorial Day in Swindon, our anti-penultimate speaker, Colleen Prendergast. Hope you managed to get through, Colleen.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Colleen Prendergast and I live in Old Town in Swindon. Today, I wanted to pay my respects to the victims and their families of both Auschwitz-Birkenau and Rwandan genocide, as I've actually been to both of these places. I went to Auschwitz 8 years ago with friends from my school days, including 2 Polish ones. One of these friends had a relation in prison there who suffered atrocities that thankfully survived. It's one thing to learn about this at school, but quite another thing to actually see it for ourselves. It had a whole different impact. To see the conditions that the prisoners had to endure was very sobering and horrific. It highlighted to us their sheer bravery and tenacity. 3 years ago, I flew to Uganda to visit my son and his wife. They took me to the Rwandan Genocide Memorial in Kigali. In just 3 terrible months in 1994, an estimated 800,000 innocent men, women and children were brutally murdered. As the rest of the world stood by, unimaginable horror unfolded. At this memorial, 250,000 people lay buried. At Yamata and Tarama churches, the bones, blood and clothes of thousands of victims remain. It's a sight that leaves you speechless, a realization that leaves you breathless. Today, Rwanda is a country looking forward, a country building hope through forgiveness. These memorials remain so that nobody will ever forget what happened. The country that is known as the land of a thousand hills are the million memories that should never have happened. Let us today remember Rwanda, Auschwitz, and all other countries that have experienced genocide. We must teach our children and our children's children to have the courage to stand up to lies, hate, and prejudice. Let's all light a candle at 8 o'clock this evening to send a message of light and hope. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Colleen, thank you very much. Thank you. Now the penultimate speaker, Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire, Mrs. Sarah Troughton. Sarah?
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew, very much, Matt, for inviting me, and Mr. Mayor and High Sheriff and all our friends from the Jewish community and beyond. It's a most moving ceremony, which I haven't been to before. Be a Light in the Darkness is a wonderful title and encapsulates what the Holocaust Memorial Day is really all about for people of all faiths and of none. Thank you for inviting me as Lord Lieutenant, and I'm very proud that Swindon, where I live just down the road anyway, and thereby Wiltshire as a county, has continued the tradition of honouring this extraordinary occasion. Your stories have been sad, but they've also been uplifting and optimistic, if I might say so. And I guess it's now up to all of us to ensure that that darkness never returns. So thank you very much indeed for asking me for a most moving ceremony. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you very much, Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire. That's very good of you to come. And Swindon has a reputation for many things, but this is one of the great things I think about it, that we stand by this. Thank you very much. And finally, to speak, I believe, on behalf of Churches Together and himself, our man about town, Reverend Simon Stevenhead. Simon, welcome.
Thank you, Matt, very much indeed. Friends, I was really moved to get a letter 2 days ago with the postmark Light of the Darkness and today's date on. It really struck me very much. So I'm speaking from next door to Christchurch, which is in Old Town there. And just to picture it, there is an eco-stable outside, been there for 2 months, lit up each night, be there for 1 more week, it's been through Advent, Christmas and Epiphany. But in terms of that eco-stable, one of the words on it are comfort and joy. But God's with us everywhere. We published in December this book called The Beacon on the Hill, which is 160 pages, 16 chapters of the history of Swindon and Christchurch over those years. And just a little story for you. For many years, the pilots from Afghanistan, when they were coming back to Lynham, when they saw the beacon on the hill lit up, we're nearly home. Now tonight, friends, the light we lit up for all those who remember today, who want to reset. And around about 5:30 when it gets dark, look out. If you come up to Old Town, you'll see our eco stable, which is brand new this year, with the beacon on the hill. And I'm very mindful today of those who will come into the church for personal prayer, quiet moments, those for whom will be especially reflective, but all those walls are seen over those years. But I'll just end with these words from the evening collect, and it's a prayer which I'll pray today, but you might think about these words. The crowd often sing these at better times when we could sing in church. One day we'll sing these words again. Lighten our darkness, Lord, we pray, and in your great mercy defend us from all perils and dangers of this day and night. Love of your only Son, our Saviour, Jesus Christ. May God bless all those remembered today, and God bless his world with peace and strength and renewed hope. And may we know in our own homes, the light shines in the darkness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. One day we will sing those songs together again. We will. We will. We may. We will. In a moment, we come to the end of this ceremony and go our separate ways, back to work, back upstairs or downstairs, maybe into the kitchen to have a cup of tea or a bite to eat. But just before that, a little reminder that at 7 p.m. this evening, the National Holocaust Memorial Day Trust will hold an online ceremony. Google Holocaust Memorial Trust, you'll get it. It runs till 8 p.m. And then at 8 p.m. they invite everyone safely, folks, to put a candle in your window if you feel like it, to lighten the darkness. That would be nice. Okay, finally, being together like this provides us with an opportunity to make a pledge, to renew our commitment to tackle wrongful prejudice, hatred, exclusion, and in order to create a safer and better future for us all here in Swindon and elsewhere, wherever you live. One way we can remind ourselves to do this is to meet like this each year in Swindon and publicly acknowledge and openly declare that we take this responsibility seriously. And we can do this by remembering and reflecting on the following 4 points, which represent a statement of commitment by us here in Swindon. 1, we must ensure that we, now and future generations too, try to understand the causes of genocide and reflect upon its consequences and react to ensure that such events never happen again. 2, we will remember the victims and we will honor the survivors. 3, we condemn wrongful prejudice and discrimination. We value the sacrifices of those who have risked their lives to resist human evils. And we will try to find the courage in ourselves to shine a light on and speak against wrongful prejudice. 4, we value a free, tolerant, and democratic society globally, nationally, and right here in our own town, Swindon. From now on, let us hope that we can create ever better, positive, and meaningful memories for our children, for grown-ups, and for generations to come. Let's hope we can. Now, as she played us in, Debbie will play us out. Till we meet again, everyone, thank you for coming. Keep warm, keep well, and thank you.
Thank you.